All week, we've been highlighting some of the hottest stocks out there in our new series, Biotech, The Next Generation. Tonight, we're taking a closer look at one of the 10 best-performing biotech names of 2014. It's called PTC Therapeutics, PTCT, which rallied 205% last year. And I think there could be even more upside here because PTC is an orphan drug developer. Hey, it's just like that company that, I told you we love, NPS Pharma, which we learned last weekend is being acquired by Shire for a monster premium. PTC develops small molecule therapies that modify RNA transcription and translation, which is a way of fixing rare genetic disorders, especially those that are caused by what are known as nonsense mutations in your DNA. The company's lead drug, Translarna, has been approved in the EU for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. We'll call that DMD. That's an ultimately fatal orphan condition, and the U.S. launch could come next year pending FDA approval. There are other biotechs racing to develop treatments for this disease, including BioMarin, which we spoke to yesterday, but PTC is alone in targeting a specific subgroup of DMD patients, roughly 15 to 20% of the overall population, who have particular genetic mutation. That's why the DMD indication alone could potentially be worth $1 billion in peak sales for PTC. Plus, this drug is also being studied as treatment for cystic fibrosis, where it's in phase 3, and a group of inherited metabolic disorders known as MPS, where it's in phase 2. On top of that, PTC has a solid pipeline, including a spinal muscular atrophy treatment. They're developing that one with Roche, an intriguing oncology platform that targets the stem cells of aggressive and drug-resistant tumors. That's moving into phase 1. You know how early that is. That's talking about mice, okay? Now, PTC may have run up dramatically here, but it's also in the sweet spot of what's been working in biotech. So let's take a closer look with Shane Kovacs, Chief Financial Officer of PTC Therapeutics, find out more about his company and its prospects. Mr. Kovacs, welcome to May Have Money. Good to see you, sir. Have a seat.
Jim. Nice to meet you.
All right, Shane, I've got to tell you, when I was going through my first thing when I read this was like, wait a second. DMD, we already know indications. Cystic fibrosis, we already know is working on that. You were working on subsets of subsets where no one else seems to be treating these conditions. Tell us about the DMD and that window of what's so important if they can get your drug.
That's right. I mean, so for all of these rare diseases, we're talking about different mutations that ultimately lead to the loss of the protein. In Duchenne muscular dystrophy, that's these nonsense mutations that we're focused on.
Right.
It's also true in CF, and it's also true in MPS.
So if 10% of the people have it, 5% of the people who have that disease?
Yeah, in Duchenne, it's between 10 and 15%. We estimate around 13%. In CF, it's around 10%. In MPS, it's actually about 60 to 80% of those patients.
Okay. How do people know if they have that mutation?
They have to go and get genotypically identified. They have to sequence their DNA to confirm that it is a nonsense mutation as opposed to one of the other type of deletions.
Could we do that 5 years ago?
It's getting faster and it's getting cheaper to do it for the patients.
Okay, one of the things that I noticed was, and this is sad stuff when you're, actually everything that you treat is very sad, because there's one where it looks like that if you get to people who are between 5 and 6 years old, you might be able to save their lives. It looks like later on you can't.
Yeah, in Duchenne, you want to treat these boys as the younger, the better.
Right? It's boys that have this.
Yeah, it's predominantly boys because it's an X-linked genetic disorder, so it lies on the X chromosome.
Right. Now, if they don't have it, I'm trying to figure out, all the research says that it could be worth $1 billion. It seems like that if they have to be treated for many years and then ultimately they do die, but that a health maintenance organization would have to pay millions over time to take care of these people unless these people are identified and they take your drug.
Yeah, in Duchenne, this is a muscle wasting disorder, and what we're trying to do is stabilize the boys to keep their healthy muscle healthy, so that it isn't so easily damaged. And so you want to treat these boys as young as possible. This would be a chronic therapy. They'll take it for the rest of their lives.
How about cystic fibrosis? Again, you're not trying to do what Vertex is doing. You've got a specific subset cystic.
Yeah, this is a mutation that is different and distinct from the mutations that Vertex is working on. This is the nonsense mutation. It's the class 1. It's actually the most severe form of cystic fibrosis.
How did you stumble on this whole RNA technology? Because it's very different from companies that just say, we're going to go cure cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, we've got a different and unique approach to RNA biology into rare diseases. Unlike some of the enzyme replacement therapies where you're making the protein in a lab and then infusing it, our approach is to enable the patients to produce their own protein using a small molecule approach.
Now, you're approved. I mean, this is not something that's pie in the sky. This is happening right now.
Yeah, last year was a monumental year for us because the European authorities approved our drug. This is the first approval ever in this disease for the underlying cause.
And given that, that means that you're going to have revenues, and it would seem that if EU likes it, what we've seen is it's very rare that the EU likes something that the FDA doesn't.
Right. No, we've already begun shipping to patients in Europe, and actually in a lot of countries outside of Europe that recognize the European approval. In the U.S., we've got the largest study ever to be done in DMD. It's well underway. It'll read out at the end of this year.
But, if people look into it, they'll see that it's really only still talking about a handful of people in Europe, right? I mean, the numbers are not big.
Yeah, it is a unique, it's about 2,500 potential patients in
But,
Europe.
I mean, right now, you're enrolling just a handful of people. A handful have found it so far, right?
Yeah, we're early in the launch.
Right. So how many right now, if we had to look at it?
We've just launched in Germany last month. Right. We started to shipping into France and to Spain earlier towards the end of last year.
Okay, because I want people to know that this is early, but you are going to have revenues from this product, and there's a bright future for it.
Yeah, no, European launches are slower than the U.S.,
right,
but they do gain momentum.
Okay, well, now people know why it's up so much, because this is rare, and it's the only thing for these people. That's Shane Kovacs, the CFO of PTC Therapeutics. Guys, very thorough presentation from this month. If you want to know more about it, don't buy the stock until you've read the presentation. Mad Money's back after the break.